Welcome back. HISD business partners are committed to helping support the educational success of our students. For 20 years, employees of Jacobs Engineering have tutored and mentored students at Benavidez Elementary, and because of their efforts, we're recognizing them as our Spotlight Partner of the Month. Joining me now to highlight the scope of their involvement and dedication to Benavidez Elementary is Jim Wilson from Jacobs Engineering. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell me a little bit about this partnership that you have had with Benavidez Elementary for 20 years.
Well, we do a lot of things. We started off fairly small, just doing classroom tutoring. And I recruited volunteers. Of course, this was before we had email or anything, so I had to recruit volunteers through flyers posted in the coffee bars and all that. And we gradually added a pen pal program. We added junior achievement. We helped volunteer at the fall festival, scooping snow cones or whatever. We helped judge the science fair.
Okay.
We've got our Bubbles for Benavidez program, which is a program whereby we collect the little sample size soaps and shampoos from hotels in our business and personal travels, bring them all back, collect them either in my office or the library, and when the foo-foo smell starts to get a little too strong, then we get together and do a little soap sort and take anywhere from 150 to maybe 250 bags of between 6 to 8 little pieces to the school. We usually turn it over to the counselor, and then she gives it to usually a grade level, all of second grade or all of fourth grade. And we just
now, you've been the coordinator for Jacobs since 1992.
Yes.
I'm sure that you've seen the partnership activities change over the years. I know you've just given some examples, but what's some of the major changes that you've seen over that span of time?
Well, certainly a big part of it is just that Jacobs itself has grown, so I've got a bigger base from which to mine volunteers, to recruit volunteers. That has made a difference. I mentioned the advent of email. Having email available is a great time saver for me. You know, I use copy and paste big time, and that helps a lot.
And so how many employees from Jacobs that volunteer on an average?
I'd say for all of our volunteers, the tutors, junior achievement, pen pals, et cetera, we usually average around 100 each year.
Wow.
Now that's out of, I mean, this year we've got, I think 97, our employee count right now in our building. I'm not entirely sure, but it's in the 3,000 range. So it's I was told early on by one of my partnership mentors who had been doing it for a long time that you're doing good to get 10%.
Absolutely. And then to get it consistently, which
getting
is
it
so
consistently.
important.
And I do have actually great consistency. In fact, I have super volunteers. I got one super volunteer, Greg Brown, who does, he speaks Black History Month, he does junior achievement, pen pals, tutoring, and he hasn't even worked for Jacobs for years. But when he left Jacobs, he asked me if he could continue, and I said, "Well, yes, of course." and he loves doing it.
And what do you what feedback do you get from the employees of Jacobs as well as from the students in terms of what it means to both of them? Because I know it means just as much to the students, of course, but it means something to the volunteers. Oh,
it means a tremendous amount to the volunteers. In fact, I've always preached to pretty much anyone who'll listen to me that we, the volunteers, probably get more out of it than the kids. You know, I mean, it's, you know, we feel like we're connecting with them. We feel like we're making a difference. And frankly, it's even some of just the superficials, the attaboys and attagirls. You know, as I've said many times, when I walk into a classroom at Benavidez, I get cheered, I get hugged. You know, I don't get that when I walk into a conference at Jacobs. So those little silly superficial things are kind of fun too.
Right. And you're touching the lives, you know.
We are.
You're showing these students that there's people who care, and that's so important for all students, not just at Benavidez, but just within HISD as well as other school districts.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the sort of logo shirts that I've had made up, I've put the our Jacobs Benavidez logo, which is interlocking circles, and I make a difference under it because I feel like every volunteer does make a difference.
I know that one of your activities is the garden, community garden. Tell me a little bit about that project.
That garden is it's 15, 16 years old. It's on property that's actually owned by a Ford dealership. That dealership has changed hands a number of times over the years, and I believe it's now owned by Helfman Ford. It's actually a block down from the school. They allow us to use it. It's not a formal contract or anything, and they pay the water bills. And we take the kids. I personally go down with anywhere from 5 to 7 kindergarten classes every Friday morning, or almost every Friday morning. And the kids do the usual garden things. They don't, I mean, they don't just stand back and look.
Right.
They plant, they weed, they water, they harvest, and the kids take the harvest home.
Wow.
You know, and I've always preached kind of to the teachers and everybody else that, number one, read them the story about the little red hen, so that they understand that if they want the produce, if they want the product of the garden, they need to put the effort into it, and they do.
And so what type of items are they harvesting there?
Oh, it's vegetables, herbs. We do have some fruits. We started out with 15 very large raised beds, and it's an urban harvest affiliated garden, so they helped us with the planning and all that, and continue to help providing seeds, etc. And each classroom adopts a bed, so they can kind of choose what they want to grow. Occasionally we'll grow some ornamentals, big sunflowers or something, but mostly it's vegetables and herbs, and as I said, a few of the fruit. And we've got a little wildscaping pond with a deck over the pond toward the rear of the garden as well, and that's fun to do. So.
Okay, and I know that that's more of the volunteer and mentoring side. What do you do with the tutoring with the students?
The tutoring tends to be, and is very much directed by the specific teacher based on the needs of the specific students, of course. And it's usually one-on-one, sometimes one-on-two. Sometimes it's in a corner of the room, sometimes it's just outside, so they can get a little more privacy, and it's just giving a little more one-on-one time with students who need it. It may be students who are a little bit slower in some areas. It may even be students who are faster, or doing really well in some areas, but because they're so far ahead of the rest of the class, they need a little extra time. So.
Okay, all right. And I know that there is another program that we were going to talk about, the certificate. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when we first started this, I mean, currently I pretty much have just run this like my own little dictatorship for a while, but initially we started out with a committee and subcommittees and all that until we kind of got our feet on the ground. And one of those committee members early on mentioned that there are probably a lot of people at Jacobs who want to help but don't necessarily have the time or the inclination to go into the classroom or to be a pen pal or whatever, and they would like to just contribute money. So, and she came up with this scheme of a mock stock, selling mock Benavidez stock, and we got a huge stock certificate back here, and they go for $5 a share. I tell everybody it never goes down in price. It's always $5 a share. Pays great dividends in terms of the education of the kids, and we've sold that for almost since the beginning of our partnership.
Wow.
And several years ago, one of our regional VPs, just on his own, made the decision to match what we raised through our stock sale with Jacobs Foundation funds.
Wow.
And that has been kept up since then.
Okay.
And then we get a little bit of money from selling, recycling aluminum cans and all that. We do that at Jacobs, and I take them down and sell them. But
and then the school was able to use those funds for
we use those funds for, it can be anything. Teaching materials, obviously, computers, musical instruments. Recently paid for the Eagle logo and the floor of the entry. It really is very much dependent on the principal's wish list.
And do you have an opportunity to interact or hear back from any of the parents that you're impacting their children's lives?
We do, not so much after the fact, after the kids are gone, because it's a very mobile community there at Benavidez. So once they're out the door, it's rare for them to show up again, though it does happen. But yeah, we definitely hear from the parents, and while the kids are there.
Sure.
and occasionally from the kids when they come back. And of course, they're all big, and we don't even recognize them. But,
Well, we thank you for what you're doing. Are there any other new programs or initiatives that you all are looking at?
Well, we're always doing something. Of course, we have our Angel Tree Toy Drive around the Christmas holidays, and a food drive and all that. And sometimes we'll have specific clothing and food drives for a family that's in need. If there's been a fire and the family's been burned out or something like that. And our employees just respond beautifully to that. One thing that we've done in the past is a book drive, and just collecting new and gently used books, usually with some guidance from the school librarian as to what the popular things are now. And we're going to kick that off again this time as well. Probably do it in April. We've done it in the past in the summer, but I think we'll do it in April this time, in time for the summer reading program for the kids.
Well, I thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Wilson, and this is such a pleasure to hear all about your partnership with Benavidez, and we thank you from HISD for your partnership, and you're our first Spotlight partner with the Community Connection, so we're glad that you kicked it off for us, and we look forward to showcasing other partners in our Spotlight segment. Next up, we'll celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with the winner of the 2012 Gardere MLK Oratory Competition. Don't go away. Community Connections will be right back.